Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Author Spotlight, a new talk show on BPTV that introduces a new local author each month. So joining me today is Craig Jones, a Bethel Park resident.
Absolutely.
So welcome on the show. That you have published your very first picture book entitled Everybody Stinks. And I think we should start off the show by just you reading this wonderful story. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the story behind the story.
I would love to.
How does that sound?
I love it. I love it.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course.
And I would start by just kind of, going over the dedication page.
Yes.
Because even though it is dedicated to my kids and to my wife, I think the message really is for anybody reading the book. So here it's dedicated to our four little stinkers. I just want them all to kind of embrace their own stink, their own gifts that they've been given, and just find joy in that. Whatever that is,
Absolutely.
that's
Because we
what I'm
all are
looking for.
unique and we all have our special gifts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
So you want me
can
to start?
begin whenever you are ready.
All right. Did you ever wonder, or even just think, whether a skunk can smell its own stink? Well, of course they can smell it, Joey had thought. With a smell that bad, how could they not? Though he's never seen one, nor smelled one before. That's what he had heard through old woodland lore. Now, Joey's sniffer is the best in the woods. He's an opossum, and his nose is quite good. He knows his smells, and he knows his stinks. But sometimes things are not as one thinks. See, one day a new friend had moved into town, along with a smell that kept hanging around. "My name is Kit," she said with such pride. But due to the odor, Joey wanted to hide. "My name is Joey," he said, pinching his nose. "Do you smell something stinky? Let's see where it goes." Excited, Kit ran off in search of some scent. So Joey just followed wherever Kit went. "Keep at it, we're close," Joey had yelled. But Kit still hadn't sniffed what Joey had smelled. The two came across Joey's friend, Bunny, who quickly exclaimed, "Do you smell something funny?" "We do," Joey said. "Kit's tracking it well." Three friends were now off to uncover the smell. Bunny yelled out, "The smell's getting stronger. We'll be there in no time, just a few minutes longer." While Kit was unsure what the fuss was about, it was fun in the woods, just hanging out. The friends then met Fawn by the fork of the creeks, who quickly questioned, "What's that? It reeks." Both Joey and Bunny brought Fawn up to speed and shouted, "Come on, Kit's got the lead." Once again, Kit was leading the pack up hills and through meadows without looking back. When out from the brush, a new friend appeared. "Hey, it's Cub," Fawn shouted and cheered. Now, Cub's got a great nose, in fact, one of the best, so he got in line with all of the rest. By this time, the smell had filled all of the woods, so the friends kept on searching as fast as they could. After a while, they came to a lake, when Joey suggested they all take a break. "That odor," cried Cub, "that stench, that smell. I don't think my belly is feeling too well." The friends all agreed and gathered around. Forming a circle, they sat on the ground. Kit still didn't know what the fuss was about, but like all the others, she covered her snout. Just then, a cool breeze came off of the lake. That's when the friends knew they'd made a mistake. "I think it's the skunk," Cub suddenly yelled, and Bunny and Fawn agreed that Kit smelled. By now, Kit's new friends took several steps back, while Kit stood alone, far from the pack. The friends all giggled and laughed till they cried, but not poor Kit, who just wanted to hide. Now, Joey agreed it smelled pretty bad, but he also could see that Kit was quite sad. "Pardon me, Kit, but I really do think you are the one producing the stink." "But Joey," Kit said, "how can that be? What makes you think the smell is from me?" Joey recalled meeting Kit by his dray. I first smelled the odor when I met you today. At Bunny's hutch, I smelled it some more, only then it was stronger than ever before. When we came across Fawn alongside the trail, the smell reappeared when you lifted your tail. And when you met Cub outside of his den, though it was much stronger, I smelled it again. Suddenly, Kit started to think. Perhaps it was her creating the stink. Joey, Kit asked, do you smell it now? No, Kit, I don't, but I'm not quite sure how. Then Kit started walking farther away and let out a poof of her special spray. What about now? Kit asked the opossum, just as her scent was starting to blossom. Kit, that's the smell. You are the cause, Joey cried out with his nose in his paws. That's not a stink, Kit quickly called out, but I can explain what that scent is about. Kit asked all the friends to gather nearby. She'd clear the air, or at least she would try. While standing upon a hollowed-out tree, Kit proudly announced, the smell is from me. But what you see as foul, I see as sweet. So I leave a small gift for the friends that I meet. Kit told her story through the skip of a stone, leaving her feeling a lot less alone. When I met you, Joey, early today, I sprayed some perfume outside of your dray. And Bunny, for you, though it was not much, I did squirt a little outside of your hutch. Then Fawn, I met you, and you seemed so kind. I thought that I'd leave a small present behind. Joey then chuckled, you must like Cub best, since the smell you left him was worse than the rest. No, Cub really scared me, which caused me to spray. I simply had hoped he'd just run away. But now that I know that Cub is a friend, perhaps I can spray him with my special blend. No, they all hollered and scampered away, but not before Kit let out one more spray. From that day on, the friends did not mind if Kit left a little of her scent behind. So, if you ever wonder, or even just think, whether skunks can smell their own stink, of course they can smell it. How could they not? But sometimes a stink is not what you thought.
Hooray! I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it. And now can we talk a little bit about the message, because there is a very clear message in this story, right? How did you come upon it, and what made you have the desire to write about it?
I think what prompted the whole project is that my daughter was in high school at the time, and she came home and a little stressed because she had an assignment that she had to write a fable.
Okay.
And I've always seen myself as being creative. I like to
Sure.
write. I like stories.
Sure.
And I said to her, Kylie, it's not that bad. You just come up with a story that has a lesson. Let's talk about a skunk that doesn't think it stinks.
Wow.
That was the birth of the story. And then over time, the story built. And different messages were kind of built into it
Sure.
throughout. But once we had the foundation of the story, it wrote itself in my own head, at least.
Okay. How long did it take you for this book to come to full fruition? From the time where
from
you
that comment to publish?
Yes.
It
Because
probably...
it's quite a process, as we know.
It is. And for me, there were a lot of different things that came into that process. One was writing the story, not really having a deadline, right? I just
Sure.
waited until the story developed, and I wrote from there. So from start to finish, I would say that it was probably a good 4 to 5 years.
Okay. And I think patience is key, right? I think
yeah.
some people are so just eager, which is nothing wrong with being enthusiastic and excited about sharing your story. But sometimes they become so eager that they maybe rush through the process. And I think having patience and taking your time with it and letting all those ideas fully develop is so very important to the finished
Agreed.
product.
Yeah,
right?
agreed. And I didn't even start out ever thinking that I was going to publish a book, ever. I mean, I've written a lot of stuff in the past that just, I wrote it for myself. And it wasn't until I had somewhat of a story that was put together and I was talking to a coworker and I just casually said, "Oh, I wrote this children's book."
Yeah.
And because she had published in the past, she said, "Well, you need to publish that." Not knowing anything about the publishing process, I'm thinking, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, which in
Whatever.
itself you have to be patient with, right? Because that just involves so much research.
Yes.
We've talked to a few other authors on this show already, and they both agree that it's just a lot of time and research has to go into how you want to publish the book.
Agreed. And I tend to hold myself to a really high standard. Like I don't want to put anything out there if it's not perfect,
Right.
for better or worse. That's
Right.
just what I do. And when the story was at least written in my head, and I started going down the path of, okay, if I want to publish this, I need a really good illustrator because I cannot draw.
Yeah. So tell us how you found the illustrator, right? Her name is Terry
Her name
Gainey?
is Terry Gainey. She's an amazing illustrator, artist out of Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that people are put into our lives for a reason, regardless of when that is. So where Terry came from, and honestly, even where my editor came from, Amy Burgundy, I had worked at one of the major banks here in Pittsburgh a long time ago.
Okay.
And I worked with Amy at that point. We stayed connected, went our separate ways, but I knew that she was the one for the editing. For the illustrator, I went to another individual that I worked with at the bank, and while she is extremely talented, Heather Harmon, also from Bethel Park originally, now down in Wilmington,
Okay.
she said she wasn't the right one, but she knew someone who was the perfect match, and it ended up being Terry. And Terry gave me
That's wonderful.
not only the images that I was hoping for and the ones that I was seeing in my own head, but took them to an all-new level on this. And this is her first endeavor as well.
Wow.
With children's books. So I think,
exciting
I think
then.
out of the gate, for two people who had no clue
Absolutely.
what we were doing, I think
Oh,
I
I-
honestly believe this can stand up against any book on a bookshelf.
Yes, well, I highly agree. And it will be cataloged very soon here in the Bethel Park Public Library for any of our patrons who want to come check it out. But where else can they get a copy of Everybody Stinks? Or
So,
Everybody Stinks.
Everybody Stinks is currently available on Amazon.com. It is under Everybody Stinks, and it's there because it's a self-published book. When you're publishing, you have a couple different routes that you can go. One is with big publishing companies, which have changed so much on how they accept transcripts and
they
everything.
have. Yes, they have.
So, the recommendation that I had received from some folks at, there was somebody who had published from Carnegie Mellon, a professor there. There was somebody else who had published. They said, you really need to kind of go down this path if you want your best shot at it. If you can show that you get a following on it, if you can show that you can get sales, and if you can get great feedback on the story, that's now what publishers are looking for, in addition to the story itself
Right.
and a connection, right? I mean, you got to
Right.
have a connection. So right now it's about finding those 6 degrees of separation
Sure.
to get me to that right connection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we wish you the best of luck in that endeavor.
Thank
Can
you.
we go back a little bit, though, to the message of the story, right?
Absolutely.
Poor Kit. She doesn't realize that she has this smell. So it kind of goes back to, what one person get embarrassed by or think is disgusting or think is gross, somebody else might embrace and think is like super cool, right? And I think it's important that before, just as her friends did, or they learned, before you pass judgment on anyone, it's important to get to know, right? Well, why do
Absolutely.
they think that's cool? Maybe I should ask them. That's so key. That's so important to all ages, I think, but especially to teach young children, right? So if someone's different than you, let's learn about it. Let's ask questions. Let's not be afraid of it or shun them in any way,
Agreed.
but let's learn about it. So,
Yeah, with Kit, we learned early in the story that although Joey had heard about something called a skunk,
right.
you never saw it. So, sometimes you need to go out and learn things for yourself, as opposed to relying on what you have heard from everybody else.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Because what you may have heard from them may not even be true. right? It may be their perception, it may be their experiences, but it still might not be true.
Exactly.
So in here, I had the opportunity to go to William Penn and read this to the third grade class, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And after we went through the reading, I went around to every one of the kids and just said, what is your unique gift? Because I honestly believe everybody has been given a unique gift that is meant to be shared. Mm-hmm. Where they got that gift from, that is not for me to say. That is themselves.
Right.
But I do believe everybody has their own gift. And going around the room, I was hearing, well, I like to dance. And another one, I like football.
Sure.
And another one was that he drew pictures. It's like, well, then embrace that.
Exactly.
Right? And don't be so concerned. The message then followed to the kids. If that's your gift, embrace it. Embrace your stink, even when other people don't necessarily appreciate it, even when they don't necessarily find value in it, it's still special, right?
Embrace it and don't be afraid to share it.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And one of the coolest things for me has been the feedback that I've been receiving from the adults, that they're also getting the message out of the book. It's
Right.
not just from kids.
Right.
It's
That's why I said this
right.
is something that like all ages can learn from,
Yeah.
or at least it's a little gentle reminder of how we should be
Absolutely.
in sometimes a very judgmental world. It can be hard sometimes, right? And like you said, sometimes we might even do it without realizing it or without knowing it.
Right.
Maybe
right.
we just take on this perception because someone else told us this is the way we should view it, right?
Yep.
When it's not necessarily the truth. So it's a great message for all ages. Let's talk about the quote that you put on the back of the book.
Yes.
Which
yes.
you kind of already just kind of highlighted. You have a gift, embrace your stink. Your value is not based on what other people think.
Yeah. That came from, a lot of this book, I was mentioning to you earlier, a lot of this came over time through COVID, through some family illnesses. This book served as therapy for me to some degree. This particular one came, it's directly related to me because I had found myself in a situation where I was starting a new job. It was 2 weeks before anybody there spoke to me. Wow. And I'm thinking, what?
Right?
What did I do?
It can be intimidating. It can be stressful.
It can. And even when you're kind of putting yourself out there, sometimes it does take people a while to welcome others to their group. It also takes some time for people to kind of find their way into the group.
Right.
For me, what this came was, I know that what I have to offer is valuable. I know you don't know that yet. I know that you don't necessarily see that yet, but I know it, right? It's about having that self-confidence to kind of get yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And just, and the other message throughout the book, I think, I have been a corporate trainer for a quarter of a century or so. And I have built a career on taking these complex messages, policies, procedures, laws, and putting it into terms that adult learners can understand.
Absolutely.
With this book, what I found is that it's working kind of reverse. By simplifying a message to a child level in a children's book, I have heard from folks when we start talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, DE&I, it has gotten so politicized. It has gotten so much into the corporate speak, when really all we're talking about is, look, we are all unique, we're all different. We are all humans, we all have feelings, we all feel pain, and we just want to belong, right?
It's
Kit
acceptance.
just wants to belong. And thankfully, Kit was naive enough in here to not even think that it was her that was causing anything. And then thankfully, we had Joey in here being the one who was able to engage in that conversation and get to know and learn.
Take that first step.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a wonderful message, a wonderful story all around. We thank you so much for being on today's show. Is there anything else you want to kind of say to our audience before we leave?
Oh my gosh.
We do have some books on the horizon, right? So you said that writing has been therapeutic for you. And
Absolutely.
I get that because I enjoy writing myself. So you have continued.
There are definitely 3 in the works in my head.
That's
I need to make sure that this one goes where it needs to go first.
Sure.
But yeah, and You know,
Can you give us a sneak peek of what the next story may be about?
I would say that the next story, there are characters that can be found in Everybody Stinks, in the illustrations that are definitely the characters for the next book.
Okay.
The messaging of the next book really is going to be focusing more on don't be so fearful, right? If you've been given the ability to do something, do it, right? Because some people don't have as much of ability as you do, yet they're up there and they are knocking it out of the park.
Right.
You can't hold yourself back by fear.
Well,
right?
again,
Use what
gaining
you've been
that
given and
confidence.
go make magic happen.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I really do. That's so important as well. You said that this book is very personal, and I don't, without getting into too much detail,
Sure.
You did talk about the illustrations and how the next two characters have appeared in this book. And I think it's really neat when authors kind of give a nod or a shout out to somebody through their illustrations. Mark Brown in all of his Arthur books would have his sons' names somewhere in the story, right? Kind of just hidden. You had to know to even look for it. But like maybe his son's name would be carved into the chair that Arthur was sitting on. Something like that. And so the cardinal and the butterfly in Everyone Stinks represents or has some special meaning. Do you want to talk?
Yeah,
briefly?
absolutely. Especially the cardinal. When I was writing the book, my dad had just lost a battle with cancer. So this was a great way for me to put my energy towards something else.
Right.
My mother-in-law had been recently diagnosed and ended up losing her battle with cancer. All this during COVID, right? So the world is falling apart around us.
Right.
But then there are so many people in which their households also felt like they were falling apart to some degree. And Terry did a remarkable job at capturing that. But she also did a great job even on the dedication page, right, with the kids. And I'm talking to her about my 4 children. There are 3 boys. There's a girl in there. So each of the skunks has their own representation. My daughter is represented by the book. She's.
Do you know, I just now noticed this. I'm sorry.
No,
it's all good. We
good.
talked prior to the show that you just got back from Michigan because your son is involved in music, right? So here we have a, is that a trombone?
No, it's a trumpet.
That's a trumpet.
Yeah, so my son up at the University of Michigan is represented here with the trumpet. My daughter, who is at Penn State in early education, is represented by the book. And of course, the book had to be blue because it was Penn State.
Yeah.
She's the only one with the bow in her hair. And then my twin boys, one of them just absolutely loves baseball, one loves basketball. What they choose to do with their gifts may have nothing to do with this, but I know they love those things.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I love
again,
that.
Terry did a great job of capturing all of that in the dedication.
She really did.
Yeah.
And I love that you paid tribute to your
But
dad.
yeah, the cardinal is definitely my dad and my mother-in-law. That it's just they're there. I know they're there.
And they always will be.
Absolutely.
And they're encouraging on in your journey.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Oh my
It's been a
gosh, thank
pleasure
you.
talking to you on the show. And to all of our viewers, once again, this will be cataloged this week here at the Bethel Park Library. So stop in to check it out, or better yet, order yourself a copy on Amazon. And we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of Author Spotlight. Thanks for joining us.